All right, all right. Good morning, Philadelphia. This is Khalid the real estate boy. And today we jumping in this big case that happened in Kansas City. First of all, I don't even really like Kansas City, okay? Because I'm a Broncos fan. But something big happened in Kansas City yesterday. So what happened is NAR, which stands for the National Association of Realtors, they took a hit. They took a big hit. What happened was there was a action suit against them. And what are they saying? What they're saying is that they're frauding sellers by making sellers pay the commissions for the buyer's agent. What does that mean? And that's what I wanted to talk to y'all today. Let's unpack that, and y'all can let me know in the comments. Is this something? What's your opinion on it? Is this something that should be, or should we get away with buyer agents? But I want you guys to get the full picture so you can make an educated decision on your opinion. So I'm going to bring this article up so you guys can kind of see what's going on. All right, I need to be in here somewhere, but let me just get. All right, there we go. All right, so this is a quick article. I like this article because it kind of gets to the point. Okay, so, a federal jury in Kansas City on Tuesday found NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, and some of the largest real estate brokers in the country guilty of colluding to inflate real estate commissions. So, what they're saying is that NAR, which is the Realtors Group, the Realtor Association, what they're saying is that they got together with the other realtors and said, hey, they basically price fixed. So when you buy a home, a lot of times the commission is going to be between like 5% and 6% normally. Now, in real estate, everything is negotiable. Everything's negotiable. Even when you go to the store, like for example, if you go to Walmart, if you go to the doctors, if you go to your lawyer, those prices are negotiable. You don't have to buy those prices, or but in this culture, what happens is that a lot of times we don't bargain. So this is the price, and you pay that price. So when you go to the supermarket and you buy some apples, you don't say, "Well, darn, these bag of apples cost $6. Why don't you let me get it for $4?" No, the culture is that we go in and we just buy those apples. Well, in a lot of other countries, that's not the case. If they go, maybe their supermarket is outside. So when they go outside, they haggle. Hey, no, I want to buy $6. Can I get this for $5 or can I get this for $4? Okay. In a lot of countries overseas, that's just the culture. But it's not the culture here. The culture is opposite. The culture is, hey, this is the price, take it or leave it. All right. So what this verdict is saying, or what this case is saying, is they're trying to say that the real estate agencies and the brokers and the realtors got together and said, hey, no, this price is going to be this. It's fixed. Okay. From the outset, one of my issues is not that one of my issues is not so much that somebody's price fixing. My issues is that if you're doing it to this organization, you got to kind of do it to all organizations, don't you? So if you guys are saying that realtors are fixing prices, then what about pharmaceuticals? What about doctors? What about lawyers? When you go in and when you get a lawyer, the lawyer tells you, "Hey, this is my price," and that's it. When you go to the doctors, you don't even ask the doctor what their price is. You just go to the doctor, and if you get a surgery, hey, my surgery is this amount, and that's it. But what they're trying to say, for, as far as realtors, and this is part of the problem, and I'm gonna go in more deep. I'm gonna go in deeper what the whole issue is. But one of the problem is they're saying that realtors are price fixing or brokerages are price fixing. Okay, and I don't think that's the case because even when I go and I'm sitting down with sellers, I give them a menu of services and I let them know, hey, For 5% of the commission, 5% commission, you get these services. For 6% commission, you get these services. For 7% commission, you get these services. And I let them pick. So that's a lot more than what your doctor doing. That's a lot more what a lawyer doing. That's a lot more than what they're doing at Walmart. Okay. So but in any case, going back to the article, it says why it matters. The verdict is a major shakeup to the U.S. real estate market and could change how Americans purchase homes, or specifically how they pay for broker fees. Now, what happens is that it's custom that the seller will pay the commission for the realtor that they use, the seller's realtor and the buyer's realtor. How did that come about? Well, let's break out the whole process of buying a home, okay? So most people when they buy a home, they get a loan, okay? Which means what? That they don't have the money to purchase the home outright. So for example, let's take a $200,000 home. If we have a $200,000 home and we want to buy that home, our closing costs, and I'm in Philadelphia, and because of taxes, transfer taxes, closing costs, down payment, so on and so forth, your closing costs, including down payment, is going to be around $20,000. Okay, around. Now it's not going to be that specifically, but that's a good benchmark. It's around $20,000. So what does that include? That includes your down payment. Because of course, when you buy a home, you got to have some skin in the game. So that includes your down payment. That also includes transfer taxes because the city wants their transfer tax money, the state wants their transfer tax money. So that's part of the closing costs. You also have title insurance. You got to buy title insurance. So when you buy title insurance, all of that is packed into the loan. Okay. Now you're going to have to bring some money to the. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. I misspoke. It's not packed into the loan. That's your closing costs. So that's the closing cost. So you have the loan amount, which is one number. Let's just keep this real simple. The loan amount is going to be like you're buying a $200,000 home, so your loan amount might be 180. Okay, but your closing cost is going to be around $20,000. So that's the money that you're going to have to come up. Well, of course, you can have grants. You can have down payment assistance. There's a whole lot of things. You can have gifts, but in general, let's just keep this. Let's just keep this smooth. Okay. So on the seller side, what is the seller paying for? So the seller is selling his home for $200,000. If he's selling his home for $200,000, then if he has a lien, any liens, he's going to have to pay those liens off from those proceeds. But let's just say in this example, he doesn't have any liens. So he's selling his house for $200,000. Now there will be some taxes that he gets back, and I'm not going to dive into that because that'll be kind of getting into the weeds. Okay, but one of the expenses that he's going to have is the commission because he's enlisted a real estate agent to market his property. Now, he could do this by himself, okay? He could definitely sell the home by itself, but it's a full-time job, okay? It's a full-time job. But what usually happens is he enlists the services of a realtor. And the realtor's job is to sell the seller's home. How does he do that? He does that by number one, marketing the property. And that's probably the biggest thing is marketing the property to get the most money possible. Okay. And there's different techniques to that. There's a science to that. All right. He also helps them with filling out the paperwork because this is a legal contract. So there are stipulations. So those are probably one of the two biggest things that realtors do. Number one, market it to get the most eyeballs on the property. Okay. And also filling out the paperwork, making sure that all the paperwork is correct, and also coordinating with the other vendors. coordinating with the lender, coordinating with the title company, the conveyance people, making sure everything is tidy, making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So he enlists the help of a real estate agent. Now, what happens is that they agree on a commission. So they agree on a commission. So let's just say that he enlists the help of a real estate agent, and a real estate agent says, okay, and in my case, what I'll do is I'll go to the seller and I'll say, hey, listen, I have a menu of services. So you can pick the gold package, or the silver package, which is 5%. You can pick the gold package, which is 6%, or you can pick the platinum package, which is 7%. Okay, so let's just say, for argument's sake, he picks the 6% package. All right, so so if he picks the 6% package, then how much would that be for? That'd be $12,000. All right, so his commission that he's going to pay me is $12,000 to help him sell his $200,000 home. So when he gets his proceeds, then $12,000 out of that would go to me as the commission. Now, what I do as the listing agent is take that 6% commission, and on the platform that we use as real estate agents called the MLS, I say, hey, I'm going to offer who any realtor that brings me a buyer, I'm going to give you 3%. I'm going to give you 3% of this 6% commission that this seller has said that they agreed to pay me. So what happens is that a buying agent comes with a buyer, and we break down that 6%. I get 3%, they get 3%. So real estate was going along fine till these nitwits, and that's what I'm gonna call them, nitwits. Uh, these nitwits came and said, "Oh no, oh, why do I have to pay that $6,000 for that buyer's agent?" And what I think NAR did is such a bad job. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm just reading the press releases, so I don't know exactly what happened in the court. But I don't understand how you just don't break down what I just broke down to let the jury know, hey, the seller, you're not paying the buyer's agent. You're not paying the buyer's agent. You're paying the seller's agent. Now, what the seller's agent could do is the seller's agent could say, well, I'm getting 6%, buyer agent, I'll give you 1%, or I'll give you a 0.5%. It's his it's his commission. So he can break it down any way that he really wants to. But somehow they got it twisted to where they're saying, oh no, we're paying that $6,000 is mine. It's as if these people who are bringing these lawsuits, they're saying, "Oh no, this $6,000 is mine. So why should I have to pay that to the buyer's agent?" Nitwit, you're not paying it to the buyer's agent. You're paying a commission for that seller's agent, and that seller's agent, with his commission, he's choosing to give some of it to another realtor that has a buyer. But anyway, let's go back to what this article says, all right? So we just went over why it matters. Now, the big picture, it says the jury, after around 2 weeks of testimony from the plaintiffs and defendants, ordered NAR and Real Estate Franchises Home Service of America and Keller Williams to pay 1.78 billion. That's billion with a B. 1.78 billion in damages to the sellers of more than 260,000 homes in Missouri, Kansas, and Illinois. All right. And what is said here is that the case is just one class action lawsuit against the defendants, and the guilty verdict, if upheld, could spawn new legal actions in other states. This is a lawyer frenzy. This is a lawyer frenzy. Why? Because how many people own homes? How many people own homes? What's really, how should I say this? I really feel like what's probably going to happen is the government is probably going to have to step in here. I think the government may have to step in here because this is going to tie up so much money for what? This is a money grab. This is a straight, I feel like that. I feel like it's a straight money grab because again, the seller is not paying the buyer's agent. And that's what this whole thing is about. This whole thing is kind of like a misrepresentation as if the seller is paying the buyer's agent, and that's not the case. If somebody thinks that, then they have a low level of understanding of how real estate works right now in the payment of commissions. That commission is given to who? The seller's realtor. And then breaks down, he breaks that down or shares that with the buyer's agent. All right. So let's keep going and see this. It says what they're saying. Representatives of NAR and Home Services of America said they plan to appeal the verdict, while a spokesperson for Keller Williams said the company would consider appealing. All right. And of course, this is why I don't feel like for all the real estate people out there, I don't feel like this is something where there's going to be change immediately. I don't think there's going to be change immediately. I think it's going to come down the line. Okay. So it says this guy William, not this guy. I didn't mean to say that this guy. Okay. But the NAR's vice president of communications said the organization stands by its clear cooperation rule, adding that it will ask the court to reduce the damages awarded by the jury. Okay. And he also says it will likely be several years before this case is finally resolved. That's what I just said. That's what I just said. Like, this is not something that's going to affect us, the real estate agent market, right now. All right. This won't be settled for years. All right. So let's just say, it says here really fast. It says, catch up fast. It says, at the heart of the lawsuit is broker commissions, and that's what we've just been talking about. Broker commissions, or the fees paid by home sellers to brokerages for executing transactions or providing other services, like scheduled property showings, which are generally factored into the listing price of the home. Like scheduling property like that's a soft jab, okay? It's a soft jab. So hold on. Let's see what it says really fast, okay? Let's go back. It says at the heart of the lawsuit is broker commissions, or the fees paid by home sellers to brokers for executing transaction and providing other services like scheduling property showings. As if that's just as if that's the only thing realtors do. That's on the totem pole of things that realtors do. Speaking to you from a seasoned realtor, that's probably the least things that we do. And there's a lot of realtors out there that don't even do that, meaning that they may get somebody else to do it. They may get a junior partner to do it, or there's something like a Uber type deal where there's an app where you can get other agents to open the door for you. But that's the least of what we do. The highest of what we do is solving problems. Is solving problems because you're dealing with the general public also. And you know the general public comes with their traumas. Okay. So every, I always say this, every situation has its own issues. Every purchase has its own issues. You have some purchases that run super duper smooth, no issues. And then you have other situations where you're really dealing with people's past trauma. You're really dealing with trying to get them to do something that's best for them overall. But because of situations that they had in the past, they don't want to do it, or they don't want to follow what you're telling them works. They want to go against that because of something in them. And you're trying to connect this and basically make it work while this person, against what's best for them, they may be doing things that are hindering what's best for them. So, as a real estate agent who's been in the hundreds and hundreds of transactions, okay, we just don't open doors. That's the lowest of what we do. Again, at the highest of what we do is we problem solve. We facilitate the biggest investment. We facilitate the biggest transaction financially in a person's life. This isn't buying a hoagie at Wawa, okay? This isn't buying sneakers. This is the largest financial transaction that you will have probably in your life. And you want to go at it by yourself? No, that's why you have realtors, because this is a full-time job and people have other jobs. People have other jobs that they're good at being a baker. They're good at being a lawyer. They're good at being a teacher. And as a professional, I respect other people's profession. This is what they do. So if this is what you do, then I'm gonna let I'm because I'm paying you, I'm gonna lean on you for you to do your thing. For example, taxes. Yes, I could sit here and do my taxes. I can go on YouTube, I can follow the directions, but there are going to be nuances that I miss. Why? Because I don't do this every day. And that's the same thing with being an agent. Yes, you can sell your home by yourself. You can buy a home by yourself, but there are going to be things that you miss. There are going to be different nuances that you miss. Why? Because you don't do this day in and day out. So it's just like any other profession that you don't do this day in and day out. So you get a lawyer. You can represent yourself. You can represent yourself in court, and you may lose what? $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. And what do they say about the one who represents themselves in court? They say the one who represents themselves in court has a fool as a client. So there you have the space to lose. That's like I said, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. But with a home, you got something that what is worth 200, 300, 400, 500, $1 million. But you want to represent yourself, and that's on either side. Anyway, let's go back to what it says. All right. So it says specifically at issue is the seller's fee payment to the buyer's realtors, which are in part governed by NAR's clear cooperation rule. Okay. It says the rule requires sellers to include a fee offered to the buyer's agent when listing a home. The fee offer is visible to the buyer agent, but prospective buyer usually do not get access to them. Okay, so let's break that down. So in what I just said, as far in my example, if you have a person who's selling their house and are selling it for 6%, they're selling their house for $200,000, and so if we agree that the commission is 6%, then the commission is going to be 12,000. So if I offer a buyer's agent 3% of that, I'll get 6,000, and they'll get 6,000. But again, it's my commission, but I'm breaking them off 6,000. So what they're saying here is that um, the buyer's agent on the MLS can see that, but the buyer can't see that. Okay. All right. Let's think this through. The seller's agent, with their commission, has agreed to give this to the buyer. What does the buyer care? That's my question. Why does the buyer care? Why would the buyer care what the seller agent was between the seller agent and the buyer's agent? Maybe I'm looking at this from a non-objective view. But if y'all can just put in the chat, let me know, why would the buyer care? Why would the buyer care what the real estate agent is getting paid? Hey, listen, I'm from the school. If you ain't paying for it, if you now this gets me in trouble a lot with my wife, but I'm from the school. If you ain't paying for it, why do you have an opinion on it? Why do you care? You're not paying for it. You're not paying for it. The seller's agent is breaking his commission off with to the buyer's agent. So let's unpack this. Let's unpack this. So when I go to the store, when I go to Walmart and I buy, what's the last thing I bought from Walmart or the last thing I bought from Amazon? Okay, a phone. Okay, when I go and buy this phone, let's just say I bought this phone from Amazon. Amazon's not telling me what they bought it for from Apple. They're just giving me the price. That's it. But they're not. Why? Because I'm paying for the price. I gotta know the price to pay for it. But I don't know what's the breakdown. How much is Amazon making off that? I don't know. So if that's the case, then why does the buyer agent care about what? Oh no, excuse me. What does the buyer care about what the buyer agent is making? It's weird to me, man. It's straight weird to me. Let's see. The rule requires, we said that, okay, real estate agents generally must become members of NAR, one of the largest trade associations in the US, to gain access to most local real estate database. Okay, so what this means here, um, most brokers require you, not all, but most brokers require you. Now, let me just step back for a second because a lot of people don't know this. Is that when a real estate agent, you're an independent contractor. So you don't work for a brokerage, you work with a brokerage. It's a partnership. It's a partnership. So you don't work for that brokerage, you're an independent contractor. But that broker, what most of them do, not all, so I don't know how they can say this is a monopoly. Not all, but most of them require you to be a NAR member. What is the importance about being a NAR member? Being a NAR member, it's an association, almost like a union, where they have a code of ethics. So since they have a code of ethics, um, belonging to them means what? That there's some type of order. Now, some realtors be out here wilding, okay? But there's some type of order and some type of standard. So if you don't uphold those standards, then um they can discipline you. They can discipline you. They can kick you out of NAR. And what's the benefits of NAR? Like any union or association, and I use this comparison to union very loosely, very loosely. Okay, but we have to pay, and I will say this: we, as a real estate agent, you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to be a part of NAR. But what does NAR do? They provide education. They also they're a lobby also, so they lobby for us for real estate agents' interests in Washington, and you also get access to the MLS. And I mentioned this MLS. So if you don't know what the MLS is, the MLS, what's the best way to describe it? It's a platform where real estate agents put their listings on. So what used to happen back in the day is when you had a listing, meaning that somebody agreed to let me sell their home or a real estate agent to sell their home, what would happen is that it would be put up in some type of database and there would be a book that's published that had all, so you don't have to, because before that, the listings would just be with the particular broker. For example, I'm with EXP Realty. So if you wanted to buy a home, it would be based on the real estate office that you went to. So back in the day before the MLS, if I worked for 123 Main Street and I got a listing, the only way for you to get that listing would be to go to 123 Main Street. So you will go to 123 Main Street. Okay, what listings do you guys have? Or, I mean, I take that back. You would see the sign, and you would see the sign, and you would call. So all the listings were with the individual brokers. Okay, so there wasn't a central database. So when you would have to drive around the neighborhood. I mean, thinking it through, if there's no central database, you have one or two options. You have to drive through the neighborhood, or you have to go to this broker and say, okay, what's your listings? And go to this broker. It's very inefficient. Very inefficient. Then what happened, which was the precursor to the MLS, is they gathered all the information, and this was before my time. Books used to be published. So books would be published that had the MLS that had all the listings in the neighborhood or in that area. For example, Philadelphia, all the listings or all the homes on sale. So as we got more technologically advanced, what happened? What happened is now they're all on one database. So now they're all in the computer, they're in the cloud, and that cloud that houses all of the listings or homes for sale is called the MLS. Now, in order to get access to the MLS, you have to, from my understanding, you have to be a part of NAR. Now, I've heard people say that you don't have to be a part of NAR to get access to the MLS. Um, I've heard that online somewhere. Okay, from what I know, and I could be wrong, but from what I know, in order to get access to the MLS, you have to be a part of NAR. So I guess what they're saying is that that fosters a monopoly. So here it says, zoom in. The plaintiffs argue that the rule effectively creates a conspiracy that artificially drives up home prices as agents can steer their clients to properties that compensation. Rule, they argued, requires sellers to pay inflated commissions at closing potentially by tens of billions of dollars annually. Americans paid over 85 billion in residential real estate commissions in 2020, according to the Department of Justice, which previously investigated the NAR for violations of antitrust laws. So uh, the rule, they argue, requires sellers to inflated commissions at closing. How? And crazy is when you put this number up, when you say, oh, they paid 85 billion in residential uh commissions in 2020, on how much real estate? How much real estate was sold? Like, you're putting that number out there in a vacuum. $85 billion. Yeah, if I just say $85 billion like that, it sounds like a lot, but it's not in context. It's not in context. So, yeah, 85 billion of what? 85 billion of what? So, which is crazy. So, before that day, the rule, they argued, requires sellers to pay and requires. It's require. Why are they paying inflated commissions? The plaintiffs argue that the rule effectively creates a conspiracy that artificially drives up home prices as agents can steer their clients to properties that offer commission. Okay, so I guess what they're saying is that if I if I'm a seller's agent, I can, if I charge you 6%, it's because I want to give them 3 to attract people to come to me. Let's think that through. Versus if I charge 5. If I charge, okay, what's the I guess my question, this is how I always think about things, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Because if I have a listing, and I guess what they're saying is I'm going to charge the seller 6% so I can do 3 and 3 versus 5% where I can do 2.5, or maybe versus 4% where I can do 2 and 2. It's like I'm not sure how that makes sense. I'm seller, Mr. Seller. I'm charging you the fee for my services, just like you get charged a fee for any other services. You go to the doctor, you get charged a service. You go to your financial planner, you get charged a fee for their services. As a real estate agent, we're charging fees for our services. So I guess maybe what their argument is, and I'm gonna close this up really fast. I gotta jump on this 9 o'clock. But I guess what their argument is that if they didn't have to do that, then they would charge less. So instead of me charging you 12,000, and that's going to break a lot of people's backs. That's going to break a lot of buyers' backs. It's already hard enough for buyers to purchase now, but now you're going to add an extra cost on top of that. So what's some of the options? The options that you just don't have a buyer's agent. If you don't have a buyer's agent, now you're negotiating with a pro. I don't think that's the right thing. The next is what you could do is you could charge the buyer. In my example, you charge that buyer $6,000. That's $6,000 more that he has to come up with over that $20,000. You're going to break the buyer's back. So I don't see that being viable. If this, if this does happen, then maybe what will happen is that $6,000, that commission may be able to be wrapped into the loan. And if you wrap that into the loan, and this is really simple math. I know that there's other things that have to be considered. Okay. But if you take that 6,000 and you divide it by that 30-year loan, I mean, it's only $200. And if you times that by 12, it's $16, $17. So that's probably the most viable option. The most viable option would be for you to wrap the real estate charge in the loan. So I haven't heard anybody say that. So y'all heard it here first, okay? So if that happens, remember y'all heard it here first. That that probably seems like the most viable option is that if they do get rid of the seller paying the commission, then what's probably going to happen is they'll probably wrap that into the buyer's loan. Now, I guess that's really not a lot when you're talking about a house that's $200,000. But I guess when you get up there and you start talking about a home, for example, that's $1 million, okay? If you have a home if you're going to buy a home that's $1 million and you got to pay 3%, that's $30,000. So that's $30,000 on top of what you already have to pay. So that's $30,000. We divide that by 30 because I'm talking about a 30-year fix, and then you divide that by 12. Okay, I mean that adds $83 onto your projected bill. And again, I'm doing simple math, so I know there's other interests and so on, and there's other things in play, but this is real quick numbers, okay? That's $83. So it looks like that's the most viable. So if you're asking me if this does go down, then what's going to happen is now that puts more risk on the lenders. And I don't know how the lenders would feel about that. Okay. Because now they got to hold more of it. I don't know what the lending industry would feel about that. But I feel like they're in the business of they're in the business of loaning money, and they will probably want to see things flatten out, meaning like not all the turbulence, because just like on the block, um, attention is bad for business. So we got the we have the court's attention on us. All right. So in any case, what looks like is that the most viable option here is for the if this does happen, okay? If this does happen to where now buyers have to pay for buyer agents, what I think is going to happen is that that's going to get wrapped up in a loan. All right, guys, I got to go. Again, this is Khalid Nathan Alim, the real estate boy. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, I got you. All right, y'all. Take care.